and it's unreasonable to assume guilt based upon a reaction. And it's unreasonable to assume guilt based upon a reaction.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since Amanda Knox had that setback in Italy where court upheld the slander conviction against her. I happened to stumble across this interview. I've seen snippets of it before, but I stumbled across this and I really wanted to share with you some of the micro expressions. It really is incredible in this particular interview. And so let's listen to this one more time, just kind of slow down a little.
And it's unreasonable to assume
gulp, try not to smile,
guilt based upon a reaction.
tongue flick, smile, and lids closed to block out perceived thoughts. Now, the more you watch this, the more kind of interesting it becomes. And then if you extend that to the rest of the video, it's only 2 minutes long. It really does make for some interesting body language analysis. Now, first of all, it's not unreasonable to assume guilt based upon strange or unusual behavior. I mean, when the police investigate a case, they're looking for strange or unusual behavior. They're looking for odd behavior. And especially when you have a suspect, you do wonder why there's nonchalance in the face of, for example, someone is murdered, even worse, someone you know has been murdered. Why is there nonchalance?
Your roommates, your boyfriend, the cops, they all say the same thing. They thought you were responding weird, odd, strange.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you the one who is strange? What makes you strange? Just one thing, right? There's the kissing, there's the split, there's the repeated nonchalance.
Before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. Bear in mind I've written 2 trilogies on the Amanda Knox case, one dealing with the sort of fabric leading up to the case, and then the other dealing with the legal narrative, the aftermath to it. So if you're interested in that, look out for that. I'll put some links to those books in the description. If you find this analysis worthwhile, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started.
It was just like, I miss them. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, and just like, you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that.
We saw the same shocking nonchalance from Chris Watts, who came across extremely nonchalant in all of his interviews. Are we seeing something similar here with Amanda Knox? Now, it's crazy that in response to being asked why she seems so odd, Knox makes a statement only to undermine it all over again with her own body language. She's talking about a very big deal, guilt. Guilt about being accused or suspected of murdering her housemate. And in making the case that the assumption is unreasonable, immediately after saying it's a mistake to infer guilt based upon her own reaction, she reacts to her own words by smiling about murder. Now you'll note that she tries to hold back the smile and interfere with it, first by speaking slowly and concentrating, but also by poking out her tongue in the middle of the smile, and also by closing her eyes in a long blink. Again, it's a concentrated effort to not smile. You might think, wow, I don't know if I agree with that, but you see the same thing repeatedly. This thing of closing her eyes, trying to rein in her feelings, by sort of slowing down her thought process in order to slow down her sort of automatic reactions. Now, what is so funny, what is so amusing, what is so enjoyable, what is so titillating about being on national television talking about why she didn't kill her housemate Meredith Kercher? Instead of tears, there's gravitas, unusual gravitas in her tone. I mean, if you know Amanda Knox, you know that she's often very light-hearted, often making jokes, right? And in this particular interview, the gravitas is actually unusual. And yet, despite this unusual gravitas in her tone, several times in the 200-second clip, small smiles seep through. How many do you think there are? Well, the first is at 16 seconds.
Understanding.
But you're kissing your boyfriend.
The second is huge at 32 seconds.
I was standing there looking lost, and he felt bad for me. He kept close to me and was just trying to comfort me, and there was nothing he could say.
It's also interesting that Amanda Knox says she was looking lost. She's not saying she was feeling lost. So she's very aware of what things look like. Can you imagine being on national television and being asked about suspicions that you murdered someone that you lived with? Do you think you could come up with this sort of expression? Put into context, she's clearly smiling, and if you didn't know the context, you might call it glee. I mean, that is the biggest smile that it seems like she's capable of giving. Her mouth is wide open. She's showing all of her teeth. And then the next one is at 47 seconds, again smiling, eyes closed, trying not to openly smile as well.
Your boyfriend? The cops? They all say the same thing. They thought you were responding weird.
And she nods and she smiles. At 53 seconds, when asked why others thought her behavior was weird, she smiles for the fourth time in barely half a minute. Eyes are closed, but mouth is openly smiling again.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
6 seconds later, at 59 seconds, she smiles a fifth time, again closing her eyes, trying not to smile.
Are you the one who is strange? What makes you strange?
A 2-second pause, her eyes open, but as she tries to answer, she opens her eyes and her mouth opens into a bigger smile as well. That's 6 smiles in way less than a minute. That's over 1 smile for less than every 10 seconds so far. For the next 30 seconds, she does better until smile number 7 at 92 seconds, again talking about guilt.
Based upon a reaction. I mean,
Smile number 8 is at 122 seconds. There's a follow-up flicker of a smile a second later, that's 9. Number 10 is at 142 seconds.
and you know, when I first heard and understood that Meredith had been murdered, my most immediate reaction was, oh my God, I could be dead. And you know, that was selfish of me to think, oh my God, I could be dead. Like,
The 11th smile is quite a big one, and then 12 is a still widening of the original smile as she says, oh my God, that could have been me. It should be a terrible and traumatic realization, but Knox seems pleased as punch, absolutely thrilled to be sitting where she is saying it. The 13th smile is again just a long extension of the 2 or 3 preceding it while she says Meredith is dead. That's at least 13 separate smiles while talking about why she isn't guilty of murdering her housemate, saying several times, Meredith is dead. I'd like to challenge you, or the best actor of our generation, to write down the transcript of this particular video from CNN and then try reading it. While reading it, try to smile 13 times while talking about someone who is dead and you not responsible, and make it seem normal, and make it seem natural, and make it seem reasonable, and make it seem credible with 13 smiles. Talking about any person who is dead, regardless of whether one is involved in their death or whether you knew them or whether you lived next door to them. Just any person. And smiling almost constantly. Imagine if a newsreader did this. It's extremely bizarre, but that's not the number one clue we all missed. The number one clue is a short clip of video. It's footage showing Knox lifting her head to kiss Solicitor, and as she does, she exposes the left side of her neck. the left side of her throat, under her chin, to the camera. Do you see a faint reddish line? Look closer. Still don't see it. Let's try a different filter. And now a different angle. Do you see it now? Let's zoom in. You might say it's a trick of the light, but the local police actually took a photo of Knox's neck in precisely this position, with her chin raised, perhaps with her chin lifted even more. And there's clearly a reddish blemish, a vertical reddish blemish on the left side of the sort of middle line of her throat. This scar also came up during the trial and was mentioned several times by news media at the time. One headline read, "Witness, Knox had scratch to neck." Another one, "Murder trial in Italy, US student had scratches." There's a third headline, "Flatmates evidence at Meredith trial casts doubt on break-in story." Let's go to the text of one of those stories. I think it's from NBC News. Perugia, Italy. An American student accused in the stabbing death of a British roommate had a scratch on her neck hours after the killing, a witness testified Saturday at the murder trial in Italy. Laura Mazzetti, an Italian woman who shared an apartment with victim Meredith Kircher and defendant Amanda Knox, told the court she saw the scratch on November 2nd, 2007, at the police station where they were waiting to be questioned. Kircher's body had been found earlier that day in their apartment in Perugia. Amanda had a wound to her neck, and I noticed it because it was known that Meredith had been killed by a wound to her neck, Mazzetti told the court. She, meaning Knox, had a scratch to her neck. Mazzetti said she observed Knox's scratch from a few yards away. She described the wound as vertical, less than 1 centimeter, or about 0.4 inches thick, red in color, and she gestured that it was under Knox's chin. I was afraid that Amanda too might have been wounded. I was worried and I looked at it really intensely, Mazzetti said. The article goes on to note, in comments after the hearing, Knox's lawyer and her father downplayed the testimony. Why would it be necessary to downplay the testimony? What does this scratch suggest? According to the article, Mazzetti said she did not see any scratch when she saw Knox on October 31st during breakfast at the apartment, that's just prior to the murder, and that she did not see Knox again until 2 days later at the police station. She said the scratch was different from a love bite, which would be purple and more round. And I think it's the Knox's defenders who dismissed this mark under her neck as a love bite. And that is exactly what her father said. According to the article, the defendant's father, Kurt Knox, told reporters after the session that the doctor who gave his daughter a full-body medical examination following her November 6 arrest did not make a single note related to a scratch in the neck. There is no scratch, he added. It was probably a hickey. Meanwhile, Knox herself, speaking for the second straight day to the court, said that she was hurt by recent testimony from witnesses, including by her Italian roommates. So she was hurt by what they were saying about her. They weren't saying good things about her. Witnesses said that Knox did not always leave the toilet clean, prompting Kircher and the other roommates to complain. "I'm sincerely disappointed," Knox said, speaking Italian. "This cleaning issue was vastly exaggerated. I've talked about it with the other girls, but there was never conflict." Knox insisted that relations in the house were good. Do you believe her? Do you think everyone got along in the days leading up to Meredith Kircher's murder? Interestingly, Chris Watts, who we know had a one-on-one scuffle with his wife Shanann, had a welt on one side of his neck that he dismissed as a mosquito bite. Barry Morphew, suspected at one time to be responsible for his wife's murder, also had marks on his arm. Were those the marks of someone's fingernails? Did the victims, including Meredith Kircher, leave behind clues that we missed? If so, if there's a wound right on someone's neck or face, a recent injury on someone suspected of murder, how is it that we don't see what's right in front of us? Are we so easily fooled? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.